what is the earliest evidence we have for a scriptural religion? What is the earliest evidence? What's the earliest information, the source of information that we have, let's say, about Christianity? What is that? It's the New Testament. It's Scripture. There is no earlier source of information than Scripture itself. What's the earliest information we have about ancient Israelite religion? It's the Hebrew Bible. It's the Tanakh. There's no New York Times from 1000 BCE where we can corroborate the evidence. There's no other information. So Scripture is the earliest and source of information, and it's closest to the moment of emergence of a religion. Scripture is also sacred because Scripture is associated with God. And Scripture inevitably includes a lot of resentment directed against the establishment religions. That's just the way it is. So it shouldn't be surprising that we find a lot of anti-Judaism in the New Testament. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying it's justified. But it is a phenomenon of religion. So too, if we read the Quran, there's a lot of resentment and anger directed against the establishment religions of Arabia in its day. What were the establishment religions in Arabia? The most important and most powerful one was indigenous Arabian polytheism. There's a lot of anger, rage directed against polytheism and the polytheists who didn't accept Muhammad, didn't accept his prophethood, and didn't even accept monotheism. The other two religious establishments of Arabia in the 7th century, when Islam emerged into history, were Christianity and Judaism. And there's resentment against Christianity and against Judaism in the Quran as well. But my point is, it's not because Islam is a hateful religion, it's because Islam is a religion like all other religions that experience persecution at the hands of establishment religions and is very resentful because of it. So if you happen to be Jewish and you're in this room, you might look through the New Testament and you can feel righteous indignation about the anti-Judaism in the New Testament. You can read the Quran and feel angry and resentful about and angry. Why do they say bad things about Jews? But if you read the Torah, you'll see a huge amount of very nasty rhetoric directed against the establishment religions of the ancient Near East. The Canaanite religions, the religions of Pharaoh, the Philistines. The difference is there are no Canaanites around to call us to task for our racist, anti-Canaanite rhetoric in our religious tradition. This is a phenomenon of religion. We need to break out of our narrative and think everybody hates us. I'm talking to the Jews in the room. We happen to be there in history longer than any other monotheistic religious tradition. So we happen to have been the establishment religion more often than other religions. And we resented and made fun of or belittled the religious movements that came after our religious tradition, just as the other religions do. You know, I can play it both ways. Christians are in the middle, right? So they're resentful toward the Jews in the New Testament, and they were establishment religions with regard to the Quran. Unfortunately, the Jews were all establishment religions with regard to everybody. There's nobody that precedes us that is around in the world. What about Muslims? Muslims can say, look what you Jews do. You Jews have been very problematic for us. When we have a prophet, we accept your prophets, we accept your scripture as being of divine origin. We accept your scripture, Christians. We accept Jesus. Jesus is in the Quran. Why can't you accept our prophet? It's really not a fair relationship. But when you ask Muslims, what about the Baha'is or other religions that emerged out of Islam after the end of prophecy in the Muslim world? And Muslims will say, no, we can't accept them because they're not true prophets. Because it happened afterwards. It's a phenomenology of religion. It's just the way it works. It's not a religion is bad or a religion is good because of this. It is simply the way religion works. So with this in mind, I don't have to read any of these texts to you. But it's very important that you have them, and I'll tell you why. It's important because many people stand up in front of audiences and they say irresponsible things about other religions. If you are in the audience and someone is thumping a scripture to you, make sure that you tell that person to give you the sources so that you can check it for yourself. Because you can say anything you want about anything, and you have to be suspicious. You have to be careful. And I hope you will be suspicious of me, and careful as well. I have to be just as responsible as anyone else is in this business. So take a look at these texts when you have a chance at home. It will be on the midterm, so you can check it. Having said that, I want to give you another note of caution. When we look at texts, you have to be careful even when someone like me gives you the texts. I'm going to give you an example of how this works, all theoretically, without text in front of you. I can look at the Torah, or the Tanakh, the Hebrew Bible, and I can make a case that Judaism is a religion of compassion, of love, aspirations for peace, and for goodwill. I can cite dozens and dozens of verses and sections that will support that position. I could also make the case that the religion of the Bible is a religion of anger, of rage, of violence, of holy war, and of destruction. And I can cite texts to support that position as well. So I can give you texts, and I can still distort the reality. The truth of the matter is that Scripture is extremely complex, and religion is even more complex, because religion is based on Scripture and on tradition and on generations and generations of interpretation and attempts to understand the will of God in life as we know it. And so, even when the texts are given out to you, you have to be a little bit suspicious, or maybe more than a little bit suspicious.